Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing what I believe to be the best possible core you can use in the Great League, and that is Shadow Gliscor and Shadow Walrein. These two have nearly perfect coverage for each other. Gliscor can handle the Trevenant, Medicham, and Steel types, whereas Walrein does very well against the Ice and Water types that Gliscor doesn't necessarily want to see. I paired these two up with a Shadow Lapras and had a crazy win streak with it as I approach rank 20. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out the team in action in the Great League. Nightmare lead in the first match, Shadow Gliscor into A9. I save switch into Walrein and my opponent responds with Medicham. So far countered on the lead in the swap, so things definitely not looking great for me here. I will fire off the Icicle Spear that's able to connect. I'm not going to shield in this matchup as Walrein not really in a spot where I can flip it. I'm going to let that Ice Punch go and fire off the Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear will do a lot of damage, but as you see, Medicham is barely able to hang on, and that's not great news for me, because that means Gliscor does not get a lot of farm, and my switch timer is not yet up, which means I am being absolutely shredded by Powder Snows. I will commit the shield on the Weather Ball, continue to farm, my opponent lags a little bit there, and then they're finally able to get their fast moves through. I'm going to bait with the Night Slash gets the shield, I farm up, switch, and catch a Weather Ball onto the Shadow Lapras. That is big. I now have a lot of stored energy on the Gliscor, and in the back, they have Drapion, and this matchup right here is one of the reasons why I love Shadow Lapras compared to the regular. They fire off the Crunch, and I'm going to return fire with the Surf, but look how much damage this Surf does to Drapion. Surf does so much damage, and puts the Drapion now into a range where I should be able to shield once and fully farm down. They fire off the Crunch, I commit the shield, I am able to get the farm down, and I leave with a ton of energy. This A9 is in a very tough spot. They have to Gleam me to KO. Let's make it harder. I'm going straight for the Skull Bash. Skull Bash connects, and that is a good game. Bit of a tricky lead in the next match, Shadow Gliscor into Tentacruel. This is a very bait-dependent matchup if you're the Gliscor. They will be able to strike first, firing off the Scald before I do make my Earthquake. I will, of course, commit the shield. The Scald would do massive damage. My opponent gets the attack drop. That is not great. I decide to bait with a Night Slash. My opponent calls the bait, and everything is going wrong. I'm going to bank a ton of energy, switch, and then catch a Scald onto Shadow Walrein. This way, I can absorb their energy safely. But unfortunately, they get another attack drop. You have got to be kidding me. They're going to bank a bunch of energy and just send in Trevenant. At this point, they're recognizing that Trevenant is probably not good versus my team, so they're basically just getting rid of it. I will fire off a second Icicle Spear. This will, of course, be getting rid of the Trevenant, and now they can send back in the Tentacruel for the farm down. Tentacruel is going to leave with a ton of energy. I'll send in Gliscor, and Gliscor has a ton of energy loaded as well. I'm firing off the Night Slash. Night Slash does get the shield. Well, I have a second one loaded as well. So let's grab both shields here, shall we? That Night Slash is going to grab the shield. My opponent does have so much energy here. By my count, I think I should be able to outpace here, but as you see, my count was off. They're able to reach the second Scald, and that will KO. I'm going to send in the Shadow Lapras in the back. They have Galarian Stunfisk, and with the small energy lead that I have, I should be able to win the zeros here. They fire off the Rock Slide. That does quite a bit of damage, but with careful timing, I should win the CMP tie to the second Surf. I fire off the first one. Lapras wins CMP over the Stunfisk, and that should mean game over. This Surf is going to KO. Back in comes the Tentacruel. Tentacruel farming up, trying to get to a move, but they cannot get there. Lapras, Surf, taking out the Tentacruel and securing the win. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Shadow Gliscor into Shadow Swampert. I'm going to stay in this matchup to start, farm up 5 wing attacks, switch, and then catch the Hydro Cannon onto my Shadow Walrein. Walrein will, of course, be resisting that Hydro Cannon damage, and then my opponent will send in Toxapex. I think I only get to one move here, so it's worth just full sending the Earthquake in case my opponent decides to let it through. My opponent does commit the shield, and that's where things get a bit tricky. Toxapex has a lot of loaded energy, and I don't really want to bring in the Gliscor into loaded brines. So I'm actually going to be bringing in my Lapras here. I'm hoping that they just blind through a brine, but as you're going to see, they did go for the Sludge Wave. That's a little unfortunate. I'm going to farm up here with Lapras, switch, and catch what should hopefully be a second Sludge Wave back onto Gliscor, and it is. Let's go. Now I can overfarm with the Gliscor. Gliscor will fire off the Earthquake before they're able to reach a brine. This will easily be lethal, and my opponent is going to let this through. I have shield advantage now, and with shield advantage, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to put in a lot of work here. I will commit the shield. Hydro Cannon would, of course, do a massive amount of damage. I'm going to overfarm massively, and then bait with a Night Slash, hoping to try and grab a shield. Night Slash does get a shield, and we get a boost, and this is going to be goodbye to the Swampert. Swampert gets taken out in the back. They have Trevenant, and this game is over. Gliscor on an absolute rampage. Night Slash nearly KOs. Snipe with the Ice Shard, and that is a good game. Picking up a slightly negative lead in the next match, Shadow Gliscor into Noctowl. I immediately save switch into Walrein, and my opponent responds with Deoxys. This is definitely a matchup where I do prefer to be the Shadow Walrein, just due to the raw damage output. I build up to the Quake, fire off a Spear, and I'm able to grab shield advantage. That is absolutely incredible. I fire off an Icicle Spear, that gets Deoxys below half health. Deoxys going for the farm down, and that's going to cost them. I'm able to reach one final Icicle Spear, and Walrein grabs both shields from a Deoxys. That is absolutely incredible. I'm going to bring in Gliscor and just use it as a damage sponge. They're going to fire off Psycho Boost after Psycho Boost. I should be able to tank 3 Psycho Boosts, and I'm going to try and commit to the farm down. If they reach a 4th, then I'm just going to catch the quad deep of Psycho Boost onto my Lapras. I'm going to continue to farm up here. It looks like they are going to reach it, so I switch at the last possible moment and catch it onto my Lapras. Now I have an energy lead on my Lapras, and I have so much energy on the Gliscor. In the back, they have Lickitung, and Shadow Lapras should be an absolute star closing out this game. I will commit the shield early because I do want to buff up my defense before I take any charge moves. Now I can connect with the Skull Bash. This will hit for some heavy neutral damage and get that ever important defense buff. Lickitung continues to farm. They do have a bit of energy here, so I will respect it with a shield. They just go for the body slam. I'm going to overfarm by 1 and then fire off the Surf. This Surf will of course be taking out the Lickitung, and then all that's left in the back is the Noctowl. Noctowl is going to be met with these super effective Ice Shards and the Surf. They should have a charge move here, so I'm going to do something a little risky. I switch into the Gliscor and fire off the Night Slash. The question is this a CMP sack? Yes, it is! And that is game over. They went for the Shadow Ball. Now I can safely farm down with the Shadow Lapras, and that is a good game. Dream lead in the next match, Shadow Gliscor into Deoxys. My opponent is going to save switch into Galarian Stunfisk, and they are absolutely core broken by Shadow Gliscor. I'm going to stay in with Gliscor because Gliscor does have an extremely favorable matchup here. I'm going to farm up to the Earthquake and then bait with a Night Slash, hoping to try and grab a shield. Night Slash gets a shield, and I get the boost as well. Gliscor is about to absolutely feast. I commit the shield on the Rock Slide. I'm going to farm up and then fire off the Earthquake on the CMP tie. Is my opponent willing to give up the second shield? They are not, and they get taken out. We'll have to see what my opponent does have in the back here. They're not going to be bringing in the Deoxys, and they have a Walrein. I'll fire off a boosted Night Slash, and then I'm going to be save switching into my own Walrein. My opponent is going to respond with Deoxys, and honestly, I'm in a great spot to win this game. I'm just going to spam out Icicle Spear after Icicle Spear with the Shadow Walrein, and as you see, that Shadow Icicle Spear just hits absurdly hard, even going up against something like Deoxys. Deoxys tanks the second one. I can very comfortably let this go. They go for the Thunderbolt, and they're going to get the counter down. But I can send in Gliscor. Gliscor will be able to get the farm down. They bring back in their Walrein. Walrein going for the farm down, but not before Gliscor reaches a last second Night Slash. Night Slash is going to connect, and from here, all Shadow Lapras has to do is get to the back-to-back Surfs. I don't even need a Skull Bash to win this game. They go straight for the Earthquake. That will do quite a bit of damage, but they're just not going to be able to get enough energy here. They need to successfully bait with an Icicle Spear and land an Earthquake, and even though they're probably going to be able to get a shield with a bait here, they just can't get to enough energy to win this game. I am able to reach Surf number 2. This will be game over. Surf comfortably takes out the Walrein, and that completes the 5-0 set. Great lead in the next match, Shadow Gliscor into Galarian Stunfisk. I'm more than happy to stay in this lead, because this lead is an incredibly dominant one for Gliscor. Rock Slide doesn't even do half of my HP, whereas I easily have one-shot potential with an Earthquake. I build up to the Quake, I decide to bait with a Night Slash, and I'm able to grab a shield from my opponent. A second Rock Slide would not be lethal, but I do want to preserve some HP, so I will commit the shield. I'm going to massively overfarm, throw on CMP, but my opponent makes a beautiful catch, reading me like a book, catching it onto Pelipper. One good catch deserves another. So I'm going to bank the Earthquake, switch, and then catch onto the Shadow Wall Rain. Let's go. And now I'm just going to go for a farm down. My opponent is going to fire off a Weather Ball. They're just going for chip damage here, and this is going to allow me to fully farm down and leave with a loaded Earthquake to take out the Stunfisk. That's huge. My opponent is going to send in the Stunfisk. I will fire off the Earthquake. Earthquake is, of course, going to grab that final shield, and I have an Earthquake loaded. I just have to hope their switch clock isn't quite up yet, so I'm going to bring in Gliscor right away, go for the Earthquake, but for the second time this match, my Earthquake gets caught. Fortunately, it's not going to matter. Shadow Lapras can fully farm down here. There is not a thing Altaria can do about it. Altaria goes for the Sky Attack. Lapras tanks it like it's nothing and leaves with close to back-to-back Surfs. Back in comes the Stunfisk. I throw one Ice Shard, and then the Surf. That gets them low. I throw one Ice Shard, and then my second Surf. This is easily overkill, taking out the Stunfisk, and we survive those crazy catches. Same leads in the next match, Shadow Gliscor into Galarian Stunfisk. Honestly, G-Fisk is one of the most common Pokemon you're going to see in the Open Great League, so having a team where all three team members can hit G-Fisk for super effective damage proves to be extremely valuable. I'm going to farm up and then fire off the Night Slash bait on the CMP tie to their second Rock Slide. Night Slash gets the shield, and I'm going to be shielding up as well. I do want to preserve some HP. And now, I'm going to throw 4... wait a turn to make sure they don't catch my Earthquake this time, and then go straight for the Earthquake, hoping it lands, and it does. Down goes G-Fisk. My opponent is going to send in Sableye. They bank some energy, and then they bring in Venusaur. I fire off the Night Slash. Honestly, I should have just gone straight for the Quake. My opponent lets it go, and I'm going to send in Shadow Wall Rain. And thanks to the extra shadow damage, I should be able to shield once, and then farm all the way down with Wall Rain. Wall Rain barely able to farm down as they fall just short of a second Frenzy Plant. Back in comes Sableye, and I'm going to start firing off charge moves. Icicle Spear does get the shield. I'm going to commit to the Earthquake to force them to throw. If they're not getting Earthquaked by Wall Rain, then they're getting Earthquaked by Gliscor. In comes Gliscor, able to reach the Earthquake. This will be more than enough damage. Taking out the Sableye, and the win streak continues. Stunfisk leads so nice, we had to see it thrice. My opponent will save switch into Swampert, and I will respond with Shadow Wall Rain. Wall Rain farming up. My opponent fires off a charge move, but I believe this is only 7 mud shots, not 8, so this can only be a Hydro Cannon. My opponent was able to successfully force a CMP tie, but a Hydro Cannon is going to be doing a lot less damage than an Earthquake. I'm going to continue to farm, and at this point, honestly, I'm going to call another Hydro. They do go for the Hydro. I'm not going to be able to reach the Earthquake, but I will reach one final Icicle Spear. My opponent double shields the Wind Switch, so they definitely want alignment. But the nice thing here is that I have a secondary Swampert counter available with my Shadow Lapras. I will commit the shield. My opponent is going to full send the nuke, and they're running Sludge Wave. Lapras going for the farm down and gets it. They're not able to reach a second nuke move. Back in comes Stunfisk. Stunfisk is not going to appreciate Shadow Lapras. First Surf able to land. I'm going to overfarm and win CMP on the Rock Slide. This will be taking out the Stunfisk. What do they have in the back? It's a Golbat, and that is a good game. All good things must come to an end. Let's see how the win streak ends. Terrible lead, Gliscor into Wall Rain. I save switch into my Wall Rain, and I am met with Medicham. Definitely not a great spot to be in. I'm able to land the Icicle Spear. I continue to farm. My opponent is going to fire off a charge move. This is enough for the Psychic. I'm going to let it through. And my plan now is basically just to send in the Gliscor, shield once, and fully commit to the farm down. I need to get a massive energy lead on Gliscor if I'm going to do anything in this game. I will, of course, shield up the Ice Punch, as that would hit for double super effective damage. and I get the farm down. I leave with so much loaded energy here, ready for the wall rain. But my opponent decides to send in Noctowl, hoping that I went for the blind earthquake. But I did not. I fire off the Night Slash, and I get the boost. That's huge. I'm going to fire off another Night Slash. They should be one off their next move, so I should be able to win CMP and force a shield here from my opponent. This Night Slash does force a shield. It's CMP. I'm going to let this go and then trust in Shadow Lapras to win me this game. My opponent should be dry on Noctowl. They send in the Shadow Wall Rain, and now it's the battle of the Ice Water types. This could be an Earthquake. I shield it, and it is the Quake. That's big. This will allow me to throw on proper timing and still be able to outpace. I'm going straight for the Skull Bash. This Skull Bash does get shielded, but I do get that ever important defense buff, and that's going to matter because Shadow Earthquake does quite a bit of damage, but as you're going to see, not enough damage to take out the Lapras. Lapras farming up, firing off the Skull Bash. This Skull Bash should be lethal, and here, as you're going to see, I make a fatal mistake. Turns out Noctowl accounts are 6-6-5, not 6-5. I go for the catch one early, and unfortunately, I lose the game. All in all, I think the Shadow Gliscor, Shadow Walrein core is basically the strongest possible core you can use in the Open Great League at the moment. It's a very flexible core, and it has a ton of play against the Pokemon that people are commonly using. As you can see, I was able to go on a very nice win streak with it against some very good competition, and the win streak only ended because I didn't know my Noctowl accounts. So, had I been better informed, the win streak definitely could have gone on longer. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.